The Great Wall of China is often presented as one of humanity's greatest achievements. But behind the stone and bricks lies a much darker story. We are told that millions of workers died building it, that their bodies were buried inside the wall, and that the enormous structure was created to stop invading armies. But how much of this is actually true? The first surprise is that the Great Wall was never a single wall. It was a vast network of fortifications built, abandoned, rebuilt, and connected over more than 2,000 years. Different rulers built different sections for different reasons. And some of the most famous stories about its construction may have little to do with historical reality. So what really happened behind the Great Wall of China? Let's separate the evidence from the legend. But the biggest problem with the Great Wall story is the way its history has been simplified. People often imagine a single enormous structure rising across China under one emperor. In reality, the earliest defensive walls appeared centuries before the famous Ming Dynasty sections we see today. Different states built their own barriers to protect borders, control movement, and defend agricultural lands. Later rulers expanded, repaired, abandoned, or rebuilt these fortifications according to their own military needs. Even Qin Shi Huang, the emperor traditionally associated with the first unification of the walls, did not simply build the Great Wall we see today. He connected and strengthened existing defenses. Much of what tourists recognize as the Great Wall was constructed more than 1,000 years later during the Ming Dynasty. And this is where one of the most famous myths begins. The popular story says that the Great Wall was built with the lives of millions of forced laborers, and that dead workers were simply buried inside the structure. The image is horrifying, but historians have found no evidence that human bodies were routinely used as building material. Human remains have been discovered near some ancient construction sites, but that is very different from proving that corpses were deliberately placed inside the wall. The legend became powerful because construction was undoubtedly dangerous. Workers faced exhausting labor, harsh weather, accidents, disease, and poor conditions. Many people certainly suffered and died during centuries of construction. But turning those deaths into a story of bodies sealed inside the wall is a much bigger claim, and one that the archaeological evidence does not support. But there is another important question. If the Great Wall was built to defend China, how effective was it? The answer is more complicated than the legend suggests. The wall was never an impenetrable barrier. Armies could sometimes find gaps, cross difficult terrain, attack isolated forts, or enter through gates and mountain passes. In many cases, the wall worked less like a giant stone shield and more like a military control system. Watchtowers allowed soldiers to observe the frontier and send signals over long distances. Fortified gates controlled movement, trade, and military traffic. Garrisons could monitor important routes and respond to threats. So the real power of the Great Wall was not simply its height or thickness. It was the network of soldiers, towers, passes, roads, and communication systems built around it. Then there is the question of size. You may have heard that the Great Wall stretches for more than 21,000 kilometers. That number is real, but it is often misunderstood. It does not mean there is one continuous stone wall running for 21,000 kilometers. The figure includes many different sections, branches, trenches, natural barriers, and fortifications built during different periods. Some sections have disappeared almost completely, while others survive as enormous stone and brick structures. In fact, large parts of the ancient defensive network were made from compacted earth rather than the dramatic masonry seen in photographs today. Geography also mattered. Mountains, rivers, deserts, and cliffs were often incorporated directly into the defensive system. The Great Wall was therefore not simply something built across the landscape. In many places, it was built together with the landscape itself. But perhaps the most persistent legend is the story of a woman named Meng Jiangnu. According to the traditional tale, her husband was taken away to work on the Great Wall. After learning that he had died, she traveled a great distance to find him. When she finally reached the wall, her grief was so powerful that part of the structure collapsed, revealing his bones. The story became one of China's best-known legends, passed down for centuries through different versions. But it is important to understand what this story actually is. It is a traditional folk tale, not a historical record of a specific worker whose remains were discovered inside the wall. Its power comes from what it represents: the suffering of ordinary people under enormous state construction projects. The legend may not tell us exactly what happened, but it reveals how later generations remembered the human cost of the wall. There is also a common belief that the Great Wall is visible from the moon with the naked eye. It sounds impressive, but it is not true. The wall is extremely long, yet it is relatively narrow compared with the enormous scale of the surrounding landscape. From the surface of the moon, the wall cannot be seen with the unaided human eye. Even from low Earth orbit, spotting it without assistance is difficult because its colors and shapes blend into the natural terrain. Astronauts have repeatedly explained that the Great Wall is not an obvious line visible from space. Modern satellites and high-resolution cameras can easily detect many sections, but that is very different from seeing them with human vision. So the wall really is enormous, just not in the way this famous space myth suggests. Another misconception is that the Great Wall has always looked the way it does in photographs today. The famous gray brick fortifications are mostly associated with the Ming Dynasty, but earlier walls could look completely different. Some were built from packed earth, reeds, wood, stone, and other materials available locally. In dry regions, these structures could survive for centuries, while in other places they gradually eroded back into the landscape. This is why archaeologists studying the Great Wall do not look only for impressive brick towers. They also search deserts, fields, mountain valleys, and remote frontier regions for subtle traces of ancient construction. A low ridge of earth that looks completely natural today may actually be the remains of a defensive wall built more than 2,000 years ago. The Great Wall is therefore much larger and more diverse than the famous images suggest. But there is something even more surprising about the Great Wall. In some places, nature itself became part of the defense. Builders did not always need to construct a massive wall where mountains, cliffs, rivers, and deserts already created obstacles. Instead, fortifications were positioned to strengthen these natural barriers. Mountain passes were especially important because armies had limited routes through difficult terrain. Gates and fortresses were placed at strategic locations where movement could be monitored and controlled. In the desert, walls and watchtowers protected vital routes through otherwise hostile landscapes. This means that the Great Wall should not be imagined as a simple line drawn across a map. It was a carefully adapted military landscape, combining human construction with geography. In many locations, the terrain itself was as important as the wall. And there is one final misconception that changes how we understand the entire monument. The Great Wall was not simply built to keep everyone out. It was also a way for the state to control what moved across the frontier. Soldiers could monitor travelers, merchants, livestock, and military forces passing through strategic gates. Trade routes could be watched and taxed, while important roads and mountain passes could be controlled. The wall therefore served both defensive and administrative purposes. It helped governments project authority far beyond their capitals and manage enormous frontier regions. In some periods, the system was highly organized, with garrisons, supply routes, signal stations, and fortified settlements working together. Seen this way, the Great Wall was less like a giant fence and more like a vast border management system, one designed not only to stop people, but to decide who could pass, where they could go, and under whose authority. So what should we actually remember about the Great Wall of China? Not the image of one endless wall built by one emperor, and not the legend of millions of bodies trapped inside it. The reality is far more interesting. The Great Wall was a constantly changing network of defenses created by different states and dynasties over more than 2,000 years. Some sections were built from earth and reeds, others from stone and brick. Some protected mountain passes, while others controlled roads, settlements, and trade routes. It was never an absolutely impenetrable barrier, but it helped governments watch, communicate, move troops, and control their frontiers. And perhaps that is what makes the Great Wall so extraordinary. Its greatest achievement was not simply surviving for centuries. It was becoming something much larger than a wall, an enormous military and administrative landscape shaped by both human ambition and the geography of China.